On the markets now after ending the last session in the green on the back of better than expected quarterly earnings report from Apple. They helped lift sentiment somewhat. Now the JSE will be hoping to maintain those gains today. Simon Brown is JustOneLap founder and joins us now for a quick look at how the JSE is performing in early trade today and perhaps look ahead to what we can expect in the week. Simon, good morning to you. Let's start with your quick overview of how the markets are faring in early trade after the JSE closed firmer on Friday.
Morning, Polly. Certainly, we've continued that trend. The overall market up 0.75%. We've been led higher by the resource stocks, gold mining, PGM miners, as the metals have traded higher today. That index trading some 2% higher. We've got industrials up 0.5% and financials almost 1/3% higher. So certainly a follow through looking good. The rand a little bit stronger, a fraction so. We're trading at 18.35 against the dollar, 23.19 against the British pound, and 20.26 against the euro. So literally a few cents improvement in the rand there since the close on Friday.
Let's talk about the data on South Africa's gross foreign exchange reserves for the month of April. That data is out. What do the numbers look like?
We slipped ever so slightly, about, looking at it there, $130 million, slightly lower. We hit an all-time record back in January. February was not so good, bounced back in March, and a little bit of weakness. But if we take a bigger picture at this, Polly, I was zooming out in the chart. If we go back 20 years ago, we had about $10 million of foreign exchange reserves, and that's now sitting at just short of 62 billion. So really it's something as a country to really be proud of. We've managed to build this up. It's important for our central bank. It helps protect our currency, and it's been a fairly stellar job over the last couple of decades. Small movements like we saw for April, that's going to be expected. They really were tiny little shifts, nothing significant to worry about.
Yeah, well, from that slightly positive note to a somewhat negative one. According to figures released by the Automotive Industry Export Council, the South African motor industry's trade surplus, Simon, was cut almost in half last year. This is despite recording earnings from those exports of vehicles and components. What's going on there?
We certainly did. I mean, we had some challenges in the export side. I mean, think the floods back in April in Durban, of course, that impacted the Toyota plant. There have been some rail challenges and the like. But the story, as you mentioned it there, really is one about imports, particularly if you think about motor vehicles. I mean, we were hardly doing any sales in hard lockdown of 2020. And then into 2021, of course, the problem became simply supply issues. We couldn't get chips for the vehicles, therefore we couldn't get them. And that saw massive build-up in demand, and then, of course, the vehicle hire companies at the same time. They destocked during the pandemic, and last year they were restocking. So it really was a sort of weird situation where suddenly the imports boomed, probably more than usual. That should revert back to normal for this year, particularly as car hire companies have got their holdings back to levels that they seem more comfortable with.
Let's conclude with the DRD Gold publishing an operating trade for the quarter, which ended on the 31st of March 2023. How's their performance?
So get the bad news out first. They sold a little less gold than in the previous quarter, some 31 kilograms, just below 2,000 kilograms in total. But the good news is they're getting better grade. So of every ton of rock that they mine, they're getting 0.03 grams of extra gold. Now, those numbers are staggering. I mean, if you comprehend a ton of rock and they're finding an extra 0.03 grams of gold, it's a needle in a haystack. But this is what DRD does. They're very good at it. And that slight increase in yield really helps. It helps with the amount of gold that they produce, but of course it doesn't increase costs. So it brings their cost base down as well. So actually a good update from DRD. Stocks up 3 1/3% this morning, but actually broadly in line with the other gold stocks on our JSE.
Simon Brown is JustOneLap founder. Thank you very much, sir, for that markets update.